planted.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to SpikeTalk episode 16. I'm your host, Bebe, with my co-host, Frost. What up, brother? And we got a special guest today as well. We got Faded, who just won. Well, you didn't win the whole Challengers League, but you made it to the Ascension land. Congratulations, brother.
Definitely.
Let's go, bro.
Thank
First
you.
year coaching, and you did it, bro.
Thanks for having me here today.
Crazy accomplishment. So, you watch the show. You know how it is, bro.
Yes,
He's
sir.
a big fan here. We're going to talk about drama and you know, our talking points that we always hit, because we already touched on the matches in the last episode. So if you guys want our predictions or whatever it may be, you know, go tune into the last episode. But for now, we're going to bring up some, you know, Riot news. You know, Riot is switching out the map pool. And this doesn't directly affect challengers for everybody out there watching, but it doesn't affect VCT for everybody out there watching, champs. It doesn't affect that, but it does affect challengers. So, Faded, Dan, as I know you, how do you feel about this change of, you know, Split coming back in and Pearl coming back in? How's the team feeling about it as well?
I think the idea of Split coming back in is not as bad because we did have it in the beginning of the season. So, you know, I think the fact that they're not making any changes to the actual map structures too as well, it's a little puzzling. I definitely do think that, you know, taking out Lotus in the first place too as well. I think they're taking out Lotus and Icebox. I think the idea of not having two three-sided, bomb-sided maps, I can kind of get the idea behind it, but you know, it is very last minute, and it is really tough because you know, we do have like a month to be able to prepare and get things kind of settled in. Pearl is obviously an old map. Did a lot of theory crafting with you, Andre, back in the day with when you were on FaZe, so definitely have a good concept of it. Obviously, the new agents kind of changed the idea of the map too as well, so kind of the incorporation of that and the different styles you can actually do. But you know, I think one of the key things is it is always tough when you're kind of changing, especially between in the seasons, when you're changing, especially like, you know, granted there is some time to be able to prepare for it. But you know, I think it's one of those ideas where why didn't they take out Ascent is kind of like my question. I know Ascent is always like a fundamental map, and people have been coming up with new comps with it, right? Like the whole Deadlock Cypher, and people have been incorporating the Yoru within the mix, and people are trying to be a little bit more creative with it at the end of the day. But you know, the meta always stays strong, right? The base concept behind that. So, and it's been one of the longest standing maps. So that's kind of one of those things where, you know, Fracture is out there too as well, right? And also the idea would be, you know, why aren't we making map changes to things that are common complaints? Because I remember back when Pearl was in the map pool, everyone just hit B long on attack, right? Like everyone was just always just abusing that aspect of it. So
Get the spike down and spam, yeah.
Exactly. So it is a little bit puzzling in the sense that they're not making any real structural changes, and the idea of making those changes right before us having one of the largest competitions, you know, of challengers, right? This is our chance and opportunity to get into tier 1, and you know, it does make us kind of shift our preparation goals, especially with the Biz 2 being in the map pool and it being a fairly new map. The concepts and the ideas of that, you know, I think there's still a lot of learning to do on that map too as well. So kind of, especially with the time period, the focal points kind of change for the team as well. Haven't really discussed it with the team in depth yet. You know, we're obviously preparing for today's match, and just this whole playoff run. You know, it's been extremely exhausting, and I want to give the guys a break, but it will definitely be a point of contention with the team to kind of discuss. So, yeah.
Also, what do you think about the changes to the map pool?
I think it's insane to remove a map and then add it back. Like
in the matter of like one split.
I don't even yeah, it's just. Yeah, I feel like every year I bitch about the same shit, so I'm just gonna, you know, it is what it is. But I'm very glad that I don't have to deal with this nonsense right now. I thought for sure Fracture was coming back if Split was going to be removed. This is what I thought. Pearl and Fracture coming back is fine. I agree that B Long is kind of OP and that, you know, there needed to be a change. I know they did make a change, but clearly it wasn't good enough because people still hit B Long. On a personal level, I liked Fracture, especially
Love it.
During my time in Furia. It was by far my favorite map at that time. So I'm not really against it. Lotus being removed is sad.
I love Lotus, bro.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't remove Haven instead of Lotus, because I felt like that's kind of their thing, right? They like all the weird, peculiar maps, not the CS style maps. I mean, not that Haven is CS style because 3 bomb sites, but you know what I mean? Like, I thought all the old guard would be removed for a year, and you'd have all the new stuff, and then you bring back the old stuff. You know, probably, you know, in retro fashion in 2026.
Bro,
But what do I know? I guess.
Bro,
And yeah, Ascent not being removed is hilarious to me too. But
it's actually insane that we haven't played Fracture once this entire year. Like it's just like they just like said fuck Fracture when the map is actually fucking awesome to watch. It's fun to play as well. I mean, it's a fun map. I don't know why they're doing that.
I mean,
like I said, maybe they're trying to rework it, maybe. But
I'm sure they have their reasons, but I
fine.
think there is no excuse for Split leaving and then coming right back. This is actually an Omega troll, in my opinion. Like, you know, and that's about where I feel like every single person, both in the Valorant community and in the Valorant player base, you know, should seriously question the decisions they make, given the fact that Split is removed and pretty much an official month later is right back. That is Omega low. And I feel like there is no excuse for this, right? They'll come up and, you know how Riot is. They will say the right things, but I think ultimately that's a blunder. Troll. That's a blunder and a half there. I'm not really sure why. If it was never going to be removed, they shouldn't have removed it in the first place. So clearly, this was a case of they had no intention of bringing it back, and either they found something on the new map all of a sudden, or I'm assuming Fracture, either they found something that they realized, ooh, this might be a problem. We don't have the time to fix it. Or I think they soft-assed, you know, players and coaches and people. I wasn't one of them, so I have no idea. And the feedback they got was probably had so much vitriol that they were like, oh, because to me it makes no sense any other way. And I think it's borderline nonsensical to bring back Split. But maybe, let's try to give them the benefit of the doubt and not be jerks.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought, gosh, GC and Ascension, you know, they're going to be affected by this. Maybe 2 new maps is probably too much. Maybe that's it. And if that's what they thought, I still disagree. But okay. I mean, if they're trying to be nice, I guess that's cool. I just want to know where that was last year. But that's a conversation for a different day.
Fair, bro. Yeah, it's such a shame we haven't seen Fracture either because of all the neon changes. Like it probably would be really popular. It probably would have been very fast paced and entertaining to watch.
They bug fixed her, by the way.
What's up?
So you brought up something. I forget what episode we talked about neon. They bug fixed her. They fixed her hurt box. So I said to you, there's something that 3 years ago I noticed something about neon that no one knew. That's why I made Peter do it. And I basically told you, like, I can't say, but there was something about it. There's something about the character that was broken. That is what was broken. Slide. So because I have history in fighting games, I could see it right away. But the hitbox and hurt box of the slide were fucked up from the very beginning. And I realized that instantly.
I could tell because it felt like sometimes when I was shooting them, like I wouldn't even be on them and I would get a headshot too.
Yeah. Right. So I'm pretty sure that the hitbox, when she slid, right? So she's like this, then she slides, right? I'm pretty sure the hitbox changed, but the hurt box stayed like this. So you almost had to, instead of trace her, you actually had to shoot where she would be if she was standing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have to.
I know. You lead your shot.
Her body.
Yeah.
You lead it because you assume that that's where it's going.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, and that was kind of broken. You almost had to aim like on the back half of her.
Yeah.
Right. And it was OP as shit. And I mean, you know, I was on that mountain 3 years ago. Like, guys, this character is broken, actually broken, and nobody realized it. I guess now, I assume what really happened was it became impossible to stop her with the slide first shot accuracy, and then they realized, wait a minute, we have a problem here, and then this is probably what. But that model has been broken for 3 years, so And we
Shit.
noticed that on nearest airport, and yeah, so
They just fixed it now.
they just fixed it now, and that was what was broken.
Wow, that's crazy, bro. I didn't even know that. That's actually insane.
Yeah.
But something did
Sick.
feel off for sure when I
Yeah,
was playing
she's-
it. Or like sometimes when I would get the kills, like I said, it felt like I wasn't actually aiming at the neon and I would still get the kill. It was weird. It
Yeah,
was weird.
it's all
I,
good.
I thought it was just like interp or something of the sort, you know, like internet shit. It's
Yeah,
like obviously
nah.
I'm in LA. I always play on like higher ping, but I mean whatever.
And you also notice that there's hurtbox issues because on ISO, you're not allowed to crouch when you put on your shield because it shrinks your hurt box,
Yep.
right? So the reason why that's a rule is because obviously it lowers the ability for the shield to be broken, which increases your likelihood of success, obviously, when trying to engage. So you notice that Riot still has hurtbox issues because even ISO has his own problem. Neon was like even crazier because it was a fucking slide. So, you know, she got smaller and so yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was crazy.
bad. Yeah.
I mean, speaking of people that are trying to slide, bro, we got Sayaplayer who announced the restricted free agency from T1. But the thing is, where's this guy gonna go, bro? If he leaves, or you think he's just doing it just to see if he gets offers and then kind of just get a higher salary in T1 and he stays? What do you think?
I don't think he'll be there next year.
He doesn't like. Why do you think that's so though? He just doesn't mess with the
Easy
team.
will be
or,
duelist. I think it's complicated. I know some things, I don't know some things, so it's like, it's tough. Yeah. Look, he has to do his military service anyway very soon, or maybe he just. So that's one. Izu was out of position, trying to supplement for him. Obviously, they didn't have a good year. They brought in Stacks. I think Stacks probably has a different idea of what he would want from main duelists.
Wow.
So you have all these combinations. You have a coach that, obviously wants his way and believes his philosophy, in not trusting or in trusting the process is going to be very successful. So I'm sure there's some, shit there. But yeah, where's he going to go? Probably tier 2 because on the Korean teams in tier 1, I don't think he'll be picked up. Yeah, I don't know. If he ends up back there, that would be hilarious. I heard rumors of a 6-man roster. I'm not really sure if that's going to work because I don't know if they have the temperament to do that, but I don't know. We'll see.
Would American teams be interested in too as well? Because my thought process would be teams like, if Viber, for example, goes with like an international roster and goes towards more American, for example, or, just international in general. Like my thought process was Sayaplayer played with like the guard back in the day, right? And he's pretty successful with, the NA scene. He definitely understands the way it plays out. So my thought process would be like, why wouldn't he want to come back? Because I'm sure like there are teams that would much rather have him too as well. I mean, he's pretty storied as a player in itself, right? So that's my thought process.
Maybe that's what he's banking on, dude. That might be what he's banking on.
I think the logic there is yes. I think the logic there is great.
Mm-hmm.
Would I do it? No. That's probably what I'll say. No.
Yeah.
So
another player that announced free agency was Klaus, and this is his first time in all of VCT where he's had to do this, and it's obviously because MTA stepped up on that roster. Now, where's he gonna land? I actually have no idea. I mean, he might be a tier 2 as well. Cause I mean, I would say he had a rough year, for sure. And then also, I don't think there's been kind words going around about him either. From his teammates. So
yeah, that's what I think. So here's the number one thing everybody has to think about when they think about this. He's from Argentina.
yeah,
Sergio Aguero owns it, right? Messi is now co-owner and all that stuff. But like, for them to let go of an Argentinian player, right? It's obviously either performance or, personality. But I think they were 5-0, split 1. Like, yeah, I think to make a change there, I don't know this personally, but I've been consistent with this baby. When you do things like that, when you're playing well, it's normally like personality conflict,
something serious,
opposed to you know. So I would venture to guess that was it. I don't know him personally. I don't know how he is in server. But I will say, you know, everyone, you know, especially the Korean Mafia, have like an issue with me and my personality. I'm Latin American, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I know how hot we can run. You know, I imagine, you know, it is what it is. But decent player. Results wise, though, he did all the dirty work. So he definitely did not, like, if you look at the agents, he was not really in a position where he's going to frag. So I don't know if he ends up in the year next or in the league next year, or if he's in tier 2. I would venture to guess more tier 2. Because, you know, even if MIBR wanted to go like away from Brazilian and more like for talent and players, I think they kind of already showed where they'll go, like NA basically, right? With like, you know, Shazam, potentially Baby J for a little bit, and then they got Paint and, you know, all that stuff. So, yeah. But yeah, unlucky for him.
Yeah, I think his best bet is like getting on one of the top tier 2 teams in LATAM probably, and just like using his experience to try to grind into it. But it's so tough, man. Because honestly, like the tier 2 teams and Faded, you know this, even like at an international level, like the Brazilian tier 2 teams are looking crazy right now. There's that Neon player that's fucking ridiculous that he's just having crazy pop-off moments every other game.
I mean, the LATAM teams are growing, developing too as well. I mean, Rita Esports is a good example where you know, we've scrimmed them a lot, and you know, they definitely give us a lot more practice value than last year. I remember even last year it was a lot tougher for us on FaZe when we were, you know, scrimming some of the LATAM teams, but the tier 2 teams. But this year, like, they all leveled up. I mean, Rita has like 2 ex-crew members from back in the day. Like, a lot of these tier 1 members who don't, you know, stay within that circuit end up playing for these top tier quote unquote teams too as well. And their structured development is it's pretty solid in my opinion, especially going up against them. You know, even EXL's coach Godspeed, like, he's very, very smart guy. You know, and it's good competition for us. And so that's one thing I'm noticing is the LATAM region as a whole, not just like Brazil, but, you know, they're definitely leveling up their game, and these players definitely are good competition for us. So it is a good home for them in my opinion.
Yeah. Crew must have thought that, you know, they went on a 4-game losing streak. You know, he was clearly at the bottom of the list. You know, they just had to make a change. They normally don't do things like this, but, you know, it is what it is. I think, yeah, he's just going to have to accept. Look, DG Zin was, I think, number 2 in ACS last year as in the duelist spot. I had him. And it's no secret I wanted to replace him, actually. Which was probably some of the issues between me and Furia, and, you know, simply because of some of the like behavioral stuff, you know, and he's not even in the league. So I don't think players also realize that, like, the interpersonal stuff is very important, right? So I think, you know, again, I don't know him. I haven't been in server. I'm not sure, but typically a team like this won't make a move like that, especially when to me, the dynamic that's the most important is the fact that he's from Argentina. So, you know, so this is why I think it's probably good they hit the reset button on a personal level, and, you know, he's just going to have to figure it out next season. But I'd be surprised if, you know, he gets picked up by any of the LATAM teams. But maybe if Lev want to go back to non-international, I guess, maybe. But
they broke the bank and they can't go back anymore, or they have to go back. I mean,
yeah.
Shit. Other than that, we got Benji Fishy having that clip where, you know, he says that ranked is insanely hard in APAC because of all the skilled players, and like after seeing you pick up Primi and how good Primi is, I mean, if these kids are the future, bro, I'm actually not surprised by this, to be honest, because ranked is already so puggy, and I think you said it yourself, like the reason why APAC players are so clutch is because of how they play in ranked, where they kind of just try to like be a one-man army, like all 5 players in the ranked game. So I guess it's not really that surprising, but it is cool just to see, like, you know, somebody like Benji Fishy, who has such a big following, kind of like put APAC on the map like that in that aspect. And he's like, yo, put some respect on these players' name, bro. There's a lot of up-and-coming talent.
Gov said it early. Gup Exalt says it. Curry tried to get #1 ranked here. He even came to Korea to do it, couldn't do it. Like, it's APAC. The aim here is just way different. Straight up, aim here is just way different. I say this: EU obviously more macro than micro.
Yeah.
NA I think is a combination.
We're
of
like
both.
a hybrid.
Have,
I swear we're like
yeah,
a hybrid.
you have to have like high skill and high intelligence, but your skill is still not as skilled. APAC is by far the most skilled, and China is just the fastest. The rounds are over in 20 seconds most of the time. So, I think that's kind of why people think APAC is harder, because mechanically, though, if you don't warm up, you can't play for sure.
Yeah,
That's
bro.
hard facts.
Yeah,
I don't care
bro.
what the 5 stack is. You don't warm up, you're dead. You're losing. So, yeah, it's fucked.
I miss being fucking 16 years old and just being able to wake up and just frag the fuck out without having to do a warm up, bro. Those were the great days, man.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Anderzz, he hit his sub goal to make it, right? So now he's gonna be there, right? In Seoul, he should make it, right?
I hope.
So Faded. So just so you know, Anderzz is a coach, a specialist, you should say, for new maps, new compositions, and kind of fixing things that don't work your way. And Fnatic have been relying on him pretty consistently, randomly. They'll just bring him in for like a month at a time.
Yeah,
So-
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, so they just most recently brought him in for this champs event, which is dope. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he made this tweet. We were talking about it in the last pod. We were like, yo, basically he's like, yo, I'm gonna be streaming. I'm gonna have a sub goal up so I can make it to Korea with the squad, because there's just like budget problems everywhere right now, esports winter and whatnot. But yeah, I guess he did it. So that's a W, mans. I don't know, bro. I don't know what else to say about that. Congrats, bro. Congrats, Anderzz, if you watch this podcast, dude. I'm happy you're gonna be there with the gang, and if they fucking if Fnatic take it all the way, bro, man, they better find the budget for this, man.
Is this something consistent? Like, do they plan on just bringing him full time for the full squad with it? Because like, it would make sense if if Riot's gonna be making these changes like this throughout the season, especially with the map pool changes being so consistent. Like, why wouldn't they just keep him on board? And it doesn't seem like Riot is changing much about the maps and structures wise, right? Like, they're doing more of a recycling aspect, so it would make more sense. Like, I think the focal point there is also the agent selection itself, because when you have new agents, the synergies change too as well, and that's also important to keep up to date with them. So, thought process is, Fnatic, obviously it's probably a budget issue too as well, for them to just maintain him full time and see the impact from him. But my thought process is, it would make sense, especially with the way that Riot changes the map or creates new agents and changes the map pools, to have someone like that on board. Definitely is huge as a specialist. So
Yeah, I mean, I kind of talked about it last week. As someone that owned an org, it's kind of weird because, like, maybe you had a discussion with somebody like, yeah, you do a remote, and then they want to be there, so then they decide to do it. I think for us, for all of us, it was just weird seeing it, and without knowing the insides, it's kind of like,
The fuck's going on here?
yeah.
right. But on another way to look at it too is he's also always a free agent. So I don't know what that means, but as someone that has kind of lived through that, sometimes perception is reality, right? So people believe something that they hear, right? So maybe, like I'll give you a small example. The stuff I'm doing now with Talon, there was one player in my history, who I won't name because I'm not rude, that basically said, we never want to be the team that comes up with the meta. We should always just copy what everyone else does.
Bro, I feel like everyone's had somebody like that on their team.
That was actually something that was said to me, right? So what will I tell you? That people like that sometimes get the power and have the decision power, and they like tell the org like, oh, he's trash, basically, which is technically what happened with me. So there are times where you can go long periods because I didn't really announce it, but like from 100 Thieves went to secret. But I could have, FaZe passed on me. Andre knows. TSM also passed on me, right? So it's like, Anderzz could be that, right? But also, what's the perception of me? I'm very difficult to deal with, right? I'm an asshole, right? Right. So the perception is almost every interview I've gotten, especially this year in APAC. Well, it's not just APAC, but NA, EU, and APAC. I had to answer that question all the time. What's funny is I don't have issues with most of the players. I have issues with particular players, and one example is what I just gave you. I had an issue with this player that said this, and a real issue, like real issue. But part of it to me became like, I just don't like inflexible people. Mm-hmm. Like, there are comps and ideas I have this year where the players did not like. I wasn't a baby about it. I'm like, all right, cool. Like Gov said something to me the other day. He's like, Hector, sometimes I think you're on crack, but then you end up right. Mm-hmm. Right? And then he's like, so I just trust you now. Cool. Right? Like, but he's also at least can self-reflect enough and have self-awareness to realize, dude, but every time he says something that is crazy, we see it in game. It works. This comp works against exactly what we're seeing, right? Like, okay. So now, but there are some people that are so inflexible that just won't ever do that or won't apologize when they're wrong. And normally, these are the issues I've had with people. And the reason I'm explaining this is because the perception of me is I'm very difficult to deal with. Okay. But then you ask people that know me, or even players that have never been coached by me, like Andre, because he also has been around. We didn't really know each other while we were like when I was 100 days in phase.
Yeah, together
but
in the
post. Yeah. But now I'm sure his opinion of me is much different than what he heard before, and it's simply because now we have more opportunities to talk. And I wonder if Anderzz is suffering from possibly the same thing I was suffering from, or benefit of the doubt to other people too. Maybe he is difficult to deal with. I don't know this. I am not speculating. I don't know. I'm just saying that these things, perception sometimes can be reality. And, I've spent most of my time in Valorant fighting a perception. But the truth is, it is what it is. I don't blame people for thinking that, because at the end of the day, I try to do everything I can to win. I don't give a fuck about anything else. And that also gets me into problems, because players also, and you I think are going to realize this very soon now that you're starting to coach, self-preservation is very important. The moment they feel like you're going to replace them, your job is on the hook. And it's so funny to me that it's like clockwork here, right? It's on the GMs. It's the GM and anyone who's overseeing the operation to kind of get to the bottom of what the real crux of the issues are, but this is also a very real issue too. So I don't know where the Fnatic Anderzz situation is. I'm not in that room. I don't know. I would just like more transparency and honesty, both from players, coaches, management, about who these people really are, what their strengths and weaknesses are, because at the moment you can have one comment from a caster. By the way, this happened to me in an interview. Create this dialogue or a question that you get in an interview process to either coach or GM. And to me, that is insane that we don't realize we have all this power, because some of the people that are pushing buttons are just so blissfully unaware of what's actually going on that the narrative can change so drastically from you're a good coach to you're a bad coach to you're the reason why this fails, and all of a sudden now you don't have a career. But someone notices his value because they keep bringing him back, and we don't understand why it's why he's not full-time, why he's not I think for everyone, in my opinion, if I'm him, wouldn't you like to know what the reason is so that he can use this? And that's why last week I was like,
dude, we should have him on, bro. Maybe we should try to get him in here.
Sure.
Try to get his perspective on what's going on, and maybe he has some answers that we don't have. And you're right. How is he going to share these answers when he's not in the limelight at all, or getting interviewed or whatever? This is kind of like what we were talking about earlier, Frost, about how not a lot of people understood who you actually were until we made this podcast. And it was something that you said, you were like, maybe I should have been doing this shit earlier, when Steve, shout out Steve,
right,
was telling you to. And then maybe, it would have been
it's
better.
Sad.
Because I didn't know shit about you. Honestly, I didn't know shit about you And then I also heard, during that time, oh, like you were toxic or something. But also, everyone thought I was fucking toxic as shit. Because I'm not gonna lie, in ranked, bro, or when I was streaming, I was baby raging left and right, bro. I was doing dumb shit. You know what I mean? People actually thought that's how I was in game. But like,
It's a word.
I'm the farthest in game from that. I'm actually like
Yeah.
a fucking great fucking teammate. I do everything for the team, and the reason why I relate to you so much is because I'm a blunt person. You know what I mean? So
Right. We weaponize this word now. This word toxic is like, it's blanket for everything, but it doesn't mean anything anymore because we're not even using it correctly. Like, sure, I can be toxic, I guess. Why? Because if you're not doing what you're supposed to do and you're not trying to win and you're not putting in the hard work, we're going to have problems. And if that makes me toxic, I'm fucking toxic. Same thing with what's happening with me in the K Mafia. You don't want the smoke with me either, right? Because I'm from New York City. I'm a Latin American. I'm not afraid of conflict. I'm not afraid to voice my opinion. I'm not afraid to stand up for myself. I'm not afraid to go toe to toe. If this is toxic, I'm toxic, right? But we need to recharacterize what the word toxic is, and we need to rephrase it because in everyone's vocabulary, everything is toxic all the time. So then it doesn't mean anything at all. And that's what I think. That perception, I think, is just what's crazy. It's like, yeah, man. How do I have such good relationships with people still from years back? You can't be like, I don't know, a bad person or just like what people think I am if you still have these good relationships, right? Like I just had an 1.5-hour call with Hiko the other day, right? Perception is me and him aren't even cool, right? Because like everyone on that roster hated me. That's kind of weird. Me and Nitro, great relationship, right? But I've never talked about these things because the truth is I don't like interviews. I don't like being on camera. As a matter of fact, most of my life I had a stuttering problem. It took years of speech therapy to get over it. Yeah. So growing up, even in esports, I never liked to do these things because one, where I grew up, you got your butt whooped if you keep doing this too much, right? Because nobody likes that. And then another thing is I've never really liked being around like cameras or talking about myself or any of that stuff because it's like cringe. Dude, I don't even watch our shows back. The only time I do is when like somebody
I watch it, yeah.
Yeah.
I watch like segments back for sure. I watch segments back.
So most of the time I watch the show back, I'm telling you right now what's happening. Ban, governor, boy, someone is like, yo, this person's mad at you for saying this. Like, Ban has done this so much, bro. Ban's like, yo, what did you say about Munchkin? Yeah. What did you say about Munchkin? What do you mean, what did I say about Munchkin? I said this. So you sure? Then I go back, I look at it. I'm like, look. And then I play it for him. He's like, oh. You know, so
yeah.
So I have this like issue where like I don't like doing these things, but the problem was the gaming industry went an entirely different direction. I always thought performance would rule the day, but the gaming industry quickly turned to marketing and quickly turned to streaming and being personality. And I think this is why ultimately I had to close down Flipside, and my Flipside failed is because I didn't understand the direction that the gaming was going, right? Because if you look back, that's why I said one of my biggest mistakes was actually I could have signed that Hiko, nothing, Sean Garrett's roster because I had the relationship with Spencer. We signed Simple and Blade and Markloff because in my head at that time, I was like, I want to win. I don't go fuck about nothing else. So you go to Eastern Europeans, Young Gun and Simple, Markloff 1.6 Legend, all that stuff. That NA roster basically carried and created Cloud9 and Jack, who was coming from TSM as like a marketing director or something. Right? Think about like all the fortunes that could have changed if my mind saw exactly where the industry was going.
You'd have a VCT team, bro. You'd have a VCT
100%,
team.
bro. Fact, bro. Look at what I'm still doing with talent. I did the same thing on Flipside. Most of my players are on minimum contracts.
Yeah.
What I'm getting paid now is laughable compared to what I got paid in my career because they brought me to Siberia, basically. I was sent to Korea to die. My career was sent to die here. You laugh, but this is true, though. You know the amount of teams that interviewed me and just basically said, fuck off.
Yeah.
I would send you to die. Now, how does that happen, having all the accolades I have, all the world championships in different games? and it's not like I'm just some owner that's just like on the high top, like watching games. No, bitch, I'm like literally coaching all these teams. At one point, I'm coaching our FGC division, our Rocket League division, our Counter-Strike division at the same time.
Damn.
Blew up to like 240 pounds, by the way. Really unhealthy time in my life. I didn't realize how crazy depressed I was at that time. I had no idea what I was doing, what I was going through. I just was trying to focus on winning. Yeah, Steve will tell you, right? So it's like I am well aware that I missed, I think, the opportunities because I was just unaware and I didn't have the foresight at the time to see where things were trending and where things were going. So when this opportunity came up, obviously, baby, I realized, like, all right, bitch, if I'm ever going to do it, they fucking sent me to Siberia to die, basically. Like, it's now or never. So all year now, you know, going back to the toxic thing, now I'm toxic because I'm calling my shots all the time. I'm talking as much shit as I can to the people that want to talk shit back, because it's not like I ever started. But boy, if you, like I said, I'm okay with the smoke. I'm okay with putting my reputation on the line, basically saying I'm gonna beat your ass and how I'm gonna do it and do it. I'm okay with that because I can live and look at what happened with DRX, Buzz, Bane, everybody started talking shit about me. I don't even clap back because you won. I get it. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, I'm not even that guy. It's like, all right, bro, you beat me. Oh, okay, cool. But if I beat you, you better be able to handle it, right? So I think this is where we've like come and gone. So I'm hoping, coming all the way back to Anderzz, I'm hoping that there is a lot more transparency about all of this in the future, because simply put, I mean, there's only one player I've ever had, and I want someone from Fnatic to do that too. Ban is the only player that has talked about the impact I've had on both their career and what he thought of me as a coach. He just did it on Twitter. I didn't ask him. He just did it randomly, like 3 weeks ago. That is the only player. Meanwhile, I've had players like Hiko and Nitro, who, by the way, have both lied in interviews. Hiko basically took credit for the Raze swap on Split and at First Strike. So we were playing Split on attack. Yeah. And that was when I first started, like, yo, if we start on attack, we're going to run this comp. If we start on defense, we're going to run on that comp. So I was doing that way back then. I'm not just doing this shit on Talon, right? So he basically said he came up with the idea to like switch to Raze. No, bitch. What happened was we were in a taxi cab, and I basically said, if we start on attack on this map, you're going to play Raze. What do you think? He said, yeah, I'm down, right? And Nitro said that the anti-CNET stuff that we did against Ascend in Berlin 2021, he basically said, like, oh, that was just a random call that, like, we came up with in the game. Not only do I have a timeout disproving that it was the game plan. Literally, I have all the workups from that series basically going, we are going to anti-CNED the entire game. We're going to use our Sova util to find Jet. We're going to go the opposite way and destroy Bone Cold. That's exactly what we did. Wow. Right? So I had two players who I love and I'm cool with basically openly lie about my impact, which they don't realize inadvertently could cause a chain reaction and negatively impact my entire career.
All of a sudden, people think that you don't know anything, and
I'm getting carried by these guys. Yeah, right. So this is a perception. So what I would like, just speaking from personal level, from someone that has dealt with this issue, is just someone to say this guy's good or this guy's ass, because at least we will have an idea. Instead, now we have to question what's the org doing, which I don't want to do. I don't want to question other people doing their jobs, bro. I'm not that guy. I don't want to disrespect owners and management of Fnatic. I don't want to disrespect the players or the remaining coaching staff. I don't want to do that. But as someone that has lived through this, I am very empathetic to what he went through, because I just gave now you real examples of what the fuck has happened to me and then what I had to deal with beyond or like after that. Yeah. And then I come to Talon, I put all the things that I've been doing this whole time to work, and you know, we're champs and everybody's like, baby, you guys are like interesting and all this shit. And I'm just like, Bitch, I've been doing this shit since the game came out in beta. It's just now I have a platform to talk about it, so now people are like, oh shit, you know. But it's like I've been the same way, doing the same things, have the same ideas forever.
Bro, you know what's funny? All right, let's say, because just so everybody knows, I'm still down to play. Let's say I make the fucking league next year and I'm on stage and I do my fucking thing up there. I'm gonna be saying the same exact shit. I'm like, bitch, I never changed, bro. And everyone was like, oh, like you're washed, whatever the fuck. I'm like, nah, bitch, I'm not washed. People got better, and I also adapted, and I got better too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I'm washed or whatever it is. It's hard now to be a jet player or a duelist player and just carry every single game like I did. The skill gap has closed, and now it's at a point where now it's your brain, right? Because like, you could be the most cracked player in the world, but you can get shut down. We've seen teams like G2 consistently shut down Star Duelists. And obviously there's going to be series where the Star Duelist can actually take over. And I can still do that too, bro. That's just the nature of the role that we're in. But you got to be smart now, no matter what. And you got to be able to play as a team and all this shit. So, yeah.
It's that whole perception is reality thing. And the truth is, look, I'm also aware as an adult, a lot of the young kids that are playing Valorant now are not. We're all fucking heroes of our own goddamn story. This whole, I went through so much adversity and blah, 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 blah. Bitch, everyone does. Nobody gives a fuck. I'm only wanting people to be slightly more human in this respect, right? This is also why the cheating thing is such a big problem for me, Faded, because why I've been so opinionated about this thing is I lost a job because I lost an LCQ and then found out one of the teams had our fucking scrim VODs.
Yep. Damn.
Know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I am aware of how it impacts you, right? So why do I want someone else or people to be going through that now when the stakes are way higher today than they were pre-VCT?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's like I just want us to be more, you know, I guess, empathetic to everyone else. So this was why I took such a strong stance on the Anderzz thing. And the truth is, Faded, I would fight for you the same way, right? Mm-hmm. And you are undoubtedly at some point you're going to deal with the fact that a player is going to basically be like, you're dog shit, you didn't do shit, but you might have the receipts, and you have to make a choice at the moment. Are you going to be salty and come back and just be like ba 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 ba, or are you going to take the high road? Sometimes taking the high road means you're going to get fucked. Sometimes being salty and coming out means you're also going to get fucked. And you're going to have to choose which one you make. And I am certainly not the person to ask because, you know, everybody thinks I'm an asshole anyway. So maybe that's not a perception you want. But I'm just saying, like, you are going to have to decide how you fight these things. I have always, mainly, most of my career, decided on silence. Mm-hmm. Even though it's not, you know, growing up, that's not who or what I've been. But now all of a sudden where I'm like, man, fuck that. Y'all sent me to this place because you thought I was shit. Okay, now what? Now all of a sudden I'm a bad guy too. It's like if I'm quiet, I'm a problem. If now people start seeing me talk my shit right back, I'm an even bigger problem. You are 100% going to deal with this at some point. Mm-hmm. But you are the one responsible for basically, like, you know, how you react and what you do. I just happen to use a platform and, you know, may have caused myself more problems, but, you know, unlucky. But yeah, man, look, we're all going to go through this. And I hope that, you know, you, especially now that you've made Ascension, you know, if you see another coach that you're like, man, this guy's really good, but what the fuck? Like, why, you know, you would defend him because you now know what it's like to go from obscurity to now you have a chance to be in the league next year, right?
Yeah,
literally.
And you know how, I mean, you haven't felt the impact yet, but your life has changed now because now people know you have qualified out of America, which I'm sure most people would agree is one of the most competitive regions in Ascension to begin with to qualify for.
Dude, they had to beat, so just some context. They had to beat Oxygen. They had to eliminate Oxygen, who honestly I thought were going to be seed number one. I remember. Going into this shit. And then they had to be, then you had to be MXS.
Moist right after.
Who, by the way, like all these teams are getting
That was paid. Everyone's favorite at the start of the year. Yeah. Everyone's favorite to come out was Moist.
And they're getting paid like some of the players are getting paid like more than franchise, you know what I mean?
More than franchise level money, right?
And this is no dig to TSM, but like TSM came into this with it's a similar mentality for us about like the flip side stuff where it's like we're gonna sign you guys for like whatever whatever it is. I'm not gonna say the exact amount of money, but it's not close to what Oxygen and what
Right.
MXS are getting, even M80 are getting. But it was just enough to be able to get this group of guys together and make them actually work their asses off and want to be hungry about it.
I mean, that was one of the key things for me. It's actually interesting to hear all this from you, Frost, because like when I first started this journey, I had a conversation. I got to meet with you and Andre, and ever since then, I've been following you, like learning from you. Even though I haven't had direct contact with you, I just studied you and what you did with Talon. Talked to Andre about the stories of even the Zeta stuff with T1 and just the things that you do, right? And just I remember you sent me a video about you having that talk at the Anderzz School of Business, and that hit me hard because one, that Navi roster to this day is probably one of my favorite Navi rosters ever, right? Blade. Like I remember when I was first really getting into watching CS professionally too, as well. Like that, I could see what was going on, right? And I could see the development of it. And I was always curious as why that was, and understanding where that came from, and knowing about you, and just knowing about how you're so analytical based. Like I recently, someone even asked me about Primi, and they were like, "Oh, this is such a huge risk," and this was before the game. And they were like, "Oh, like what is this all about? Like this is gonna go either to shits or it's gonna there's no way that this is gonna work out." And I basically told them, I was like, "Look, like Frost is the type of person who's not just gonna take a risk just because he wants to take a risk. Like everything is calculated in some way, shape, or form, and there's always some sort of analytics or some sort of a thought process behind why he makes these adjustments." And since this is my first year coaching, like I took the time to not only study the game, but also to study coaches and to really understand what they're doing. I mean, there's Potter, for example, like she creates a huge community, a family base behind her team. Like she's very, very strong about that aspect, right? Like, the 100 Thieves coach, Zix, like he's very, very analytical in terms of the way that they use their util and the placements and the timings behind, even the peaks and the jump peaks and these kind of things, right? So I've taken a lot of time to really, really understand where coaches, what the specialty of coaches are and how it plays and translates into their team, right? But you were actually like my influence into how I wanted to treat the team, right? Using analytics as much as possible, understanding what kind of structure you can build within the team, having a base form of respect between the team, between you and the team, right? At the end of the day, if you're gonna get some bullshit, like you're gonna have to stand up for yourself and make a point about it, because you let the team run over you, and they're just gonna have free will, and you're never gonna get any structure behind that, right? So it was a huge balance check for me when I was running through the season. But it's also interesting what you say, because like I'm the type of person where I don't want the social media presence. I don't want the clout. Like I don't want any of this stuff. Like I want to keep my head down. Like I don't care the amount of hours that I have to put in to get things done. Like I'm willing to do it because I care about my boys. Like I care about my team. And yeah, this is my first run at it, so like they're family to me. But my thought process is always like I'm gonna keep my head down. I'm gonna do the work, and no matter what it takes, I'm gonna take them all the way, right? And don't get me wrong, like the first two splits showed that like we weren't necessarily the strongest team we could be. Right. And I think one of the key things was during this lower bracket playoff run, like we finally found out how to play as a team. And it's not just, fraggers. It's not just high potential players. Like it's what Andre was saying, like the thought process, the understanding of the game. It can't just be the IGL who does it. Like you have to have your duelists actually understanding, what the whole thought process behind even the first layers to the fifth layers of each strat is supposed to entail. Right. Because once you understand all the layers and all the levels, you become a stronger team. And that respect is the foundation for that team in itself. Right. So like these are all things that I've had countless hours of conversations with Andre, right? Like his perception from last year until his perception now, right? Like even last year, like he didn't change. Like he's always been a smart player. When I was first helping them out with FaZe, like he's the one who entrusted me. And I would sit there and have hours and hours of conversations with him about this is what these teams are doing. This is what you're seeing. Like, this is what I think you should do. And he would give me back feedback on like, well, this is what we're going to do. I still remember that Fracture game against Shopify Rebellion. Like, I remember making a key point about their Brimstone and being like, if you shut him down, their post plans are done, and you have a huge chance of success on that map, right? Like just these minor concepts. It's like everyone thought Andre is just this guy who goes in and kills and that's it, right? Like he's not thinking about the game, but in reality, he's thinking about all these processes, and he's thinking about all these different layers. He's thinking about what he can do to understand the game more, and it's shown this year from his casting, right? And that's why I think it's a good opportunity. But like people just didn't know. And I think like that's the same thing about you, Frost. Like I only know so much about you because the people, like even I talked to Drake about it, like talked to a lot of people who you've had under your belt and helped throughout the process. And it's crazy to me because like what the public sees is the social media crap, but in reality it's like when people actually take the time to understand both you guys, like you guys have my largest respect because I've understood about who you guys are fundamentally and what you guys have done for this game, let alone people take the time to actually study that. They'll do what we did, right? Like it wasn't just me going ahead and being like, I'm creating this by myself, I'm doing this. No, I had to take the time to study. I had to take the time to have conversations with you guys and like just understand, what this game is about and who you guys are fundamental to developing it, right? In terms of like, for me, the strategy aspect, right? And also the risk taking, like outweighing like the possibilities of like what I should do and what I can't do. Even the basics of comp changes, right? Like when you took that comp and you countered them and you used it because you knew that the next team was going to play on the next week, like that in itself is a genius.
I told him that shit was
I talked
fire.
to Andrew about that, and I was like, no, that is the highest level of analytical risk taking you could possibly do. Because that is a huge risk in itself in the first place. And as going through this first year coaching, like I understand the scariness, at least for me, that it would be to do that. But you have to have some form of confidence and understanding at that level to be able to do something like that. So for me, that was like that was one of the most golden moments ever. Like that in itself is some of those big brain stuff you can possibly do. So for me, like that's where everything you said is correct.
I created a lifelong enemy though talking about that because Autumn hates my guts, and it's okay. I'm totally fine with people hating my guts. It's okay. I get it, bro. Listen, if I'm him, I wouldn't like me either. So.
Yeah, but if you look at it from an outside in, like that kind of stuff is things you do because it's a chess game at the end of the day, and that's what you do at the highest level of chess. Like you have to think like 10 steps ahead, and if you're willing to take that risk to do so, like that's about winning, right? And people 5 years from now are going to study that back and see like this is what kind of stuff that we can do at this high of a level, right? So I'm gonna be thinking about that, right? When I can transition, when I think about my teams, like if an opportunity like that presents itself to me, like I'm gonna be thinking on that level. I don't care who I piss off at the end of the day. Like the people that matter to me the most is my team. Like those are my kids, those are my babies, right? So.
No, yeah, I totally respect it. I appreciate your kind words, obviously, but yeah, it's the thing that ultimately we have to do as coaches is simply not get in the way of progress. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that is like I realized very early on that I had a good opportunity because Cruz is a collegiate graduate. Mm-hmm. I have there's one comp we ran that had 38. It's a Google Doc with 38 pages.
Holy shit.
38 pages.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a comp that we installed in 4 days. You have to know your personnel.
Yeah.
You have to know your personnel. Cruz can handle this. You know what Cruz can't handle at the moment, which is why we're struggling with default comps, or why we were struggling with default comps with Surf and Lenny, is partially I think he's too nice, and partially I think it's Asian culture. Mm-hmm. Let me explain. Ban has an idea, Governor has an idea, Jit has an idea, and he's like, yeah, man, all right, we'll do it this round. The game plan might be entirely different. We might be trying to condition something for round 4 or 5 or a 2-for-1 round or something. And all of a sudden, these the in-game stuff now, the variables now, look, obviously we trust Gov, we trust Ban. They see very specific things because of what they're doing, right? But they're not always in the meetings between me and Cruz, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the condition doesn't work because now you're like, the small example that we talked about the other day was like, on an important round, Gov changed something to a B hit. And we lost a B hit. And like, it's okay. Like, Cruz isn't an asshole about it. He's not mad about it. But like, okay, you don't want to do B in that round because what we were trying to do is punish something else. And technically, they still have their Sentinel +1 on that side. If they're good enough, they can slow you down. There was another weakness on the map in the area that like we needed to exploit. And this I think is Cruz's problem. And this is what I mean by it's like Asian culture, because like, he's just a nice guy in that respect that like, if somebody says something, like if Ban says we're gonna do this now, trust me, he's gonna be okay. He's not like, what I'm used to in America, like Heavy Nitro. No, we're not doing that. Sorry. We're gonna run this, right? That's just not a thing. And Lenny also had a big problem with that too. Right. And it's okay. Like that, like it's not that this is like a major issue. It's just when you're playing the best teams in the world, they're going to give you small windows. And if you don't capitalize on that window, you might fuck yourself in super big ways, right? And I realize my personnel. I know with Cruz, he's having a hard time with not only the communication, and when we say comms, it's not English, really. It's like, it's the connecting comms that are the problem. Like sometimes JIT doesn't remember to say, oh, they just re-one-wayed, you know, a main, like, let's say Sunset.
Like info relation.
Right. And it's like,
relaying
because
info.
some APAC doesn't seem like that's like their thing. But in America, that's a huge connecting comm.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Right. So like,
it helps you paint the picture. Yeah.
Right. So Cruz isn't getting that info. Then you have, you know, Ban saying something in the mid round, but he sees the game entirely different from Cruz because he's NA. Well, and he played on a Korean team. He's obviously Korean, but he's played in NA, so he knows our style. He knows the Korean style. He's also a fucking duelist player. So the way he sees shit is way different. And now he's playing Sentinel most of the time when this is happening, right? So it's like Cruz doesn't know anything about any of those things. So what Ban sees is way different than what Cruz sees. And this is what I really mean when I say like sometimes our comms are an issue. It's the varying level of game IQ and like understanding, which you talked about when you just spoke. You just talked about the fact that like sometimes, you know, you need to get that on point first, because if everyone is seeing the same way and like, you know, hearing the same beats, way easier for the flow of information to happen, and it's also way easier for everybody else to make good decisions and calls. And sometimes you don't even have to communicate because you'll know, oh shit, we just heard Sky Flash on A. We know their duelist is going to be there because they basically play like Old Loud with Gauzine and Aspas. B's weak. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even have to calm that if you're on the same page. We have the opposite issue. We have to sometimes overcom because we all see the game very differently. And then sometimes Cruz's ideas and pictures of what is supposed to happen, because me and him talked about what the game plan is and what we're supposed to be doing and what we're supposed to be conditioning, gets changed by Governor and Ban, who are smart players, who we trust, but they don't fucking know what we're doing because these guys can't wake up for the goddamn meeting in the first place. Cruz is the only one on time all the time. So sometimes I have arguments with Governor and Ban, like, bitch, if you're gonna fucking do this goddamn much, wake up early and be in these pre-meetings. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, definitely understood.
This is so everything you talked about is what happens at the highest level, and you're about to reach that. Sometimes, though, you know, you don't have the luxury like us of being able to replace a player for every split and still make champs. Sometimes your year's chalked because you have a bad start. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, seriously,
Right?
With how punishing VCT was, especially, like, you haven't had to experience that, Faded, but the VCT schedule was so unforgiving.
Yeah, but his schedule's dog shit too. He plays like 6 games in 6 months or something. No, not 6 games in 6 months. I'm obviously over dramatizing, but you know what I'm saying. His schedule's also dog shit. And by the way, another thing that Andre told me, which was really interesting to think about before, that you didn't talk about, but what you just did is often one of the hardest things to do is when you play on back-to-back-to-backs. Because 2 reasons. 1, can't really change a lot. And 2, if you do change, you can't sim or scrim, like you can't get the reps. You don't get in-game live reps for the changes.
You gotta be clutch in the moment.
Yeah, we are fortunate at Talon because you give me 3 or 4 days to prepare for you, you're fucked. Like our teams we will be the most prepared team for sure. Yeah. Right. And that, but when you're on back-to-back-to-backs,
it goes out the window.
That you lose that edge. Right? It's an entirely different game. Like a team like PRX will probably be the best team in the world if the schedule was something like that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Because,
I think the biggest thing for me though was the fact that, you know, it's exactly what you kind of said. When there's communication gaps and communication errors, you know, the IGL becomes one of the most important keystones, right? Like you have to be able to listen to them, and I think like that was one of the key things, especially with like the back-to-back-to-backs. Like as you know, like we don't get sleep, right? Like we're anti-stratting, we're making the strat adjustments. I think one of the key things was Poised, our IGL, like he worked like countlessly with me, right? As soon as the game ended, we're watching our match back. Like we're seeing all the masks, we're seeing all the gaps, we're seeing everything that's going on. We're talking about what plays we have in the playbook. Like that 38 pager, like that's exactly what we do, but it's for like our season, you know what I mean? Like, and for each comp, like I'm very, very stringent about that. You know, every single practice, every single scrim, I'm like, open up this map, open up this strat book, like open this up. I've game plans specifically per each team, right? And I think the idea is Kev literally like Poised, he like stepped up. Like we watched the match back, we talked about the anti-strat at the like I would wake up early morning, have everything about the other team ready, common tendencies. You know, you can only do so much within that period of time, right? You can't take that deep dive analysis. But you know, I would sit down with him and I'd talk to, these are the things I'm noticing, these are the tendencies we're getting to, you know, these are the game plans that I think is the work best. And we sat down and just game planned. So we showed different masks to things that we were showing previously on different maps. And during the oxygen game, actually, they saw one of our camp traps on Sunset, and Poised instantly noticed it. And he was like, "These guys have studied us. We got to change it to this." And we kind of shifted our game plan into our secondary game plan. So you know, that run in itself, it's tough when it's back to back. But the key thing was like we talked to the team. We were like, "Hey guys, like things are going to be changing and shifting real quick. You know, like we can't do the same tendencies or the same things we did before. Like in order for us to actually get through this, especially going against the top 2 seed teams as our ending to getting into Ascension, like we need to be on the same page. And the only way we can do this is if you put your full trust in our IGL. And we no matter what happens, just trust the system, trust the game plan that we did, and go through with it. And let's just see what happens, right? And that's the reason why we were able to get through it the way we did, was because the team just fully trusted them, and they could play their own jobs, their own roles. But you're right, the back-to-back-to-back aspects, like I wish I could take it a deep dive. You give me time to like really study a team, watch back 4 to 5 different times they play that map, and see the game plan changes that they've made. I will tell you exactly from the pistol round exactly what I think is going to happen, and I can give you a game plan shifted for that. But this, when it's back to back to back, like your IGL has to have studied, has to be on point, and your team just needs to trust them. Because at the end of the day, like we're gonna lose because everyone has ideas. Everyone here, like you said, everyone has these different pieces of information. They think differently, and if we can't do our conditioning mechanisms and we can't do the things that we're trying to force the opponent team to do, whether it's info starving or forcing rotations or whatever it is, if we can't get that down, then our next plan of actions are going to get screwed over. So that's what I respect about, you know, what we did as a team and the back-to-back aspect. Like the boys just trusted and locked in, and that's the only reason, that's the main reason why we're able to get through that kind of that brutalness, I guess, of the lower bracket. So
that was a fucking run.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
it was a hell of a run.
That was a fucking run.
Probably the biggest, and this is with all due respect, but the biggest upset
fact that's
run that honestly was just crazy. It was almost like crew-esque. And I remember you saying that to the boys. I remember I was in there because obviously like I've been helping out, you know, here and there. But yeah, I was in there in the Discord and you were comparing it to the crew run. You're like, dude, this would be so crazy.
Yeah,
do this crew run.
Yeah. No, but it is. I mean, we lost to Sad. We barely beat Blinn with a sub during the regular season. We lost to Oxygen.
Shout out Sherb, right? It was Sherb.
Yeah, shout out Sherb.
Shout out Sherb.
Stepped up in. Just, you know, guy who's never been in the scene at that level and just came in and helped us close out the final map, you know? But the biggest thing about that was like we lost to Sad, we lost to Moist, we lost to teams that we really think we should have beat. And don't get me wrong, like Sad, they started picking it up again, right? Like they're a respectable team. Blinn, collegiate team, made it into the second split. Like they had really good fundamentals and good structures. Like Finn, the coach, like I've had long conversations with them too as well. And mad respect for them, right? But they're not easy teams. And then going into Oxygen, who I personally thought was the #1 team too as well. Like they have such like Redux, Verno, their whole system, their players, like it's very, very solid. Even when I was anti-stratting them, finding the gaps in the holes was, you know, very, very tough. Like Bonkar is one hell of a coach, you know, but that in itself, those teams were not easy to beat, but it really had to come down to us understanding them and being able to create a structure around, you know, countering that, but also keeping the confidence of our players, right? Like with Moist, like Mata, he's been having a hell of a season. And I remember when we were playing that last map on Haven, like, you know, Poise really created a structure in order to cancel Mata's impacts. And that kind of affected Fly's calling too as well. And just these games, like these mind games at the end of the day, right? Like it's not just straightforward strategy #1, strategy #2. Like you really have to understand these teams and dive into what makes them tick, like what makes them strong, and how to figure out the solutions to those. So
I'm actually so happy you just said that, because everyone's going to look at this like Mana had the worst series of his life, and
No.
and particularly he did. But what you just said was actually your entire game plan was designed to shut him down, and you basically said this guy's not going to beat us. Someone else on the team is going to have to beat us.
Yep.
And sometimes you do that, but players like Mata will get shit for it. I remember B-Dog used to get a lot of shit for this too on LG.
Oh,
Everybody used to
yeah.
call them chokers and all this stuff, but like people don't realize, like, especially like when they played us, my whole thing was shutting this fuck down. Because I wanted someone else to win. Like, show me you can beat us without B-Dog.
Yeah.
Oftentimes they couldn't and they wouldn't, but sometimes you have to do that. And I think the VLR stat watch shit is so unfortunate for these players because people don't, because you just admitted that your entire focal point was to shut this fuck down. That means you have 5 guys plus a coach going, nope, not you, boy. Of course he's going to struggle. Like, now maybe you're Aspas and you can get through that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But many players have struggled, especially against us in Pacific, with the same identity. It's like, if there's anybody that's going to beat us, it's going to be this guy. Let's see if he can carry. No, he can't carry? Unlucko bucko. Unlucky. You know, so
I mean,
I'm glad you pointed that out.
Season. Yeah. He's been number 1 through all the splits. Like, he's been
100%.
insane, so,
but I'm very happy you mentioned that because people are going to shit talk him, right? They're going to shit talk Fire. And you basically are like, nope, I'm shutting that shit down. You're going to have to find another way. It's unfortunate that in one series, they couldn't find another way. Sure. If you want to criticize the fact that their fallback options weren't good enough, that is totally fair.
Yep.
But at least you're highlighting that those, like that guy in specific, was extremely important, and you basically said, "Fuck you, I'm shutting you down." So his minus, I don't even know what he was, minus 20, 22, whatever. That's the reason you had 6 people trying to stop this guy.
Yep.
And that's also what I told them going into this like matchup or in general. I was like, dude, if you guys can shut down Mata, this whole season he's been like their rock, bro. Like all their wins, and don't get me wrong, like I know they had a good record all season long, but they were dropping maps quite frequently, and I noticed it too. I'm like, dude, the maps that they're dropping is when Mata is not active, when he can't get going, when he doesn't get any momentum. But every single 2-0 they had, or when they would close out the maps, Mata was sitting at 20 plus every single time. So I mean, Dan, you remember I was literally in the comments with the whole team, and I'm like, bro, if you guys just shut down Mata, it's gonna make your life so much easier. I'm not saying you're gonna win that way, but it'll make it easier at least. You know?
No, I mean, I remember when we talked about that, and it's like a huge shout out to Poise because Poise really like thought about the structure behind how to do that, right? And obviously 7 with the Odin was like, it's just it's so deadly. Like that is that was just
that Odin
incredible
play
by
was
him.
crazy,
Like,
yo. 7.
Yeah, he really understands the mechanic.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing about that kid. He understands the mechanics behind what he uses, like Gecko in itself, like the Odin aspect. Like there's so many different things. But like when we had that conversation, Andre and Kev really processed that and thought about it, and that changed a lot of the way that we're thinking about our game plan going into it. Like don't get me wrong, like Brock, like the whole Moist crew, like they're really solid players. Like mad respects to them, but that's one thing exactly what you said for us. Like I don't want Mata to get any crap for this because he is a very talented player, and I hate stats because like teams specifically game plan for these situations. Like these are our keys to success, right? Like it's not that Flya called bad. Like Flya calls amazing. He's a very good caller, even from the growth from the phase days until now.
Yeah.
Like I remember watching him, and we talk about him all the time, right? You have so much respect for this guy, and the difference is that when we take out a key element from his calling, it changes the huge structure of how he calls, right? Like you go to kind of like your innate calling styles and like the fundamentals, and you stop calling in this higher level capacity because your key element that you're so used to throughout the season that's helping you win games is out of the equation at this point, right? And don't get me wrong, like Vic stepped up, like Brock stepped up map 1. Like these guys are all insane players. But then the difference is, can we play a team game after we've created this shutdown between this one player? And can we play that team game better, right? And the 5v4 without their duelist who's popping off is going to make the game so much easier for us, right? Even if it's a 4v4 and they lose Mata, like it's a very different situation.
Your chances of winning skyrocket.
It's a lot higher. So exactly what you said for us. Like I have so much respect for that squad. They've dug through this whole season, but the game plan in itself was meant for that specific thing to happen. And you know what? I don't want Mata to get any slack for this. I don't want Fly to get any slack for this because they're a goddamn good team. Those are goddamn good players. So
yeah. And the difficulty is in the seat, like in the format. Sorry, because back to back. So even if Flya wanted to, be different and become different and like all this stuff. You may not have the reps, the timing, like there's so much that goes into it, and then you catch him with the ideas that you employees put down, and then it worked, and now he has to make a quick adjustment, but the next thing you know, you lose a half. Maybe he made an adjustment and he can salvage it 6-6, then they lose pistol, then you get on a run. It's like it's technically a bad day to have a bad day, or like, you know, you're fighting for your life ultimately down to one series, and you know, you run into an unfortunate game plan. You have something built, or you install something that actually helps the other team. You're not aware, right? You're just going to play the game. You're playing into their game plan. They figure it out. I'm sure Flyer had a moment like Poise, which was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? This shit isn't working. But then by then, you're just down too many rounds, and you know, Valorant happens, and it's just fucking unlucky.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you're like, fuck, we lost. You know, it's like, it's as simple as that, man. It's you know, but like I said, like we said, it was a fucking great run. It was a hell of a performance. So, yeah. Ascension's good, by the way. Riddle Order is insane.
I've heard a lot about them. I actually haven't seen them
Riddle Order
at all.
is nasty, bro. They are better than a lot of the T1 teams that we play. Trust me, I'm telling you this right now. Riddle Order is good. I think APAC is gonna give you fucks a run for your money. I'm telling you this right now. Riddle Order is so good. SPG is good, but well, conversation for a different day. Let's just say, you know, eye in the sky.
I don't even think they have to play them though.
No, we don't.
No,
It's region locked, but yeah.
But like,
so
like all these
Riddle
teams.
Order is Soldam's team.
No,
He's nice, huh?
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, in my opinion, I think Ascension has teams in almost every region. I don't know anything about the EU ones. I completely apologize. I don't know shit about EU in that way.
Same, Loki.
But some of these teams are so much better than some of the franchise teams. And I think we can all agree that we all thought G2 was possibly that last year. Obviously, they proved that this year.
Yeah.
No, literally.
Riddle Order is insane. So I think the next year's franchise is going to be a fucking bloodbath, bro.
Shit.
It's going to be a bloodbath, man.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get there too. I mean,
you know what else is weird? You guys have 6 teams in your Ascension finals, right?
Yeah, we have 6.
But why or not why, but like APAC and EMEA have 8. I always thought that was weird. Yeah.
I don't know, man. The rules
I guess the
don't make
different
sense,
countries,
bro. The rules just
because there's more
change.
countries that you have to deal with. So I guess maybe.
Oh yeah, because you got like, wait, so for Oceanic teams, do they have to play in? They play in APAC, so that's probably why.
Yeah,
because you're adding a whole other region.
The division aspect, yeah. Because for us, it's just LATAM, Brazil, and then NA, and then it's 2-2 and 2. First format's round robin, and that goes into playoff format. So it's only 6 teams total.
Hey, but I mean, either way, like, congrats on TSM's run, bro. It was not easy.
No, it might be 6 in the other regions. I might be just trolling.
Might be tripping. Either way.
Okay, I'm old, bro. I'm stupid. Don't worry about me.
I'm going to take this time to segue into basically just talking about the Riot game setups international, like NA compared to international. And this might be something that's going to happen with you, Dan, as well. So this is something that the players are going to have to be careful of. And maybe you try to get ahead of time, just be on top of what kind of PCs you're going to get and what kind of monitor you're going to get, etc. Right? You need to know what the hertz are. You need to know what kind of frames you're going to get if you can ahead of time. Because if you look at, Tenz's comments about the excuses of PC setups, he's right, bro. I mean, in NA, they play on 360 hertz. The PCs get good FPS from what I know. And then you go to international, and all of a sudden you might have to play on 240, right? Or shit PC, you know what I mean? And I don't know how the rooms, I don't know how the PCs are in the practice rooms either in Korea right now. Obviously, Frost, you would have some insight on that if you want to share it. But from what I know in the past, it hasn't always been all nice and dandy, so.
Yeah, I will say the PCs are not great. Our players have openly complained about this. Like, small example, they're using 5800Xs. Like, Ryzen's obviously 50.
Ryzen's
the game was optimized for 5950X. So the 5950X is the game or is what we were told on 100 Thieves. This is like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That the game was optimized with on the dev side, right? So we're using 5800s here, but there's 7950s out right now. You get where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So PCs are not great for sure. And listen, it is what it is. But the worst thing, and I mean this as respectfully as possible, because I'm obviously not trying to shit on, like, companies or marketing managers or any of that stuff, but they have us on these HyperXs that are 240 hertz, which just say low. Okay. That is an even more egregious problem, are the monitors, right? Like,
yeah, monitors are so important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And I mean, even Chet had a video talking about it as well. How it's different in NA versus global events and then etc.
Yeah,
so
small thing.
It's not like this hasn't been brought up before. That's the thing.
No, right. But like, so Chet talks about like, why is there NA VCT and an NA Riot group, and then Pacific, and then EMEA, and then why is there a global? Okay, so from my time obviously at F3 and just being around for a very long time, I'll just tell you, even orgs have begun to compartmentalize. Orgs with their sponsorship packages, sometimes they split it to like, you can sponsor just League of Legends or just Valorant or just this. It's a way to monetize and make more money, right? So if Zowie sponsors NA, they give them obviously all the shit, money, whatever. Sometimes they don't even give money, but that's an entirely different argument. It's just more ways to monetize. Global is entirely different, specifically for that same reason, because when we do a global event that's not labeled in NA, that's not labeled EMEA, it is not labeled specific region, they can make even more money on global events, global tournaments. Gov in the back, right? So it's just Riot's way to be able to monetize and make more money. The problem is people will pay way more money for global than they ever would local or regional. That's why local and regional properties probably are better, because the better companies, small example, let's say Zowie, let's just assume Zowie has in their yearly marketing, we need to be more popular in North America, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to give you more budget, blah, 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 blah. Boom. Now you have a perfect storm, right? For Valorant players, where you get the best products with a company that is willing to pay in that region, but then Pacific will have an entirely different thing. It'll be like, insert company, like, Hisense or like, Huawei or some bullshit, let's just say, right? Or like Spectre, which is like a Chinese TV company or whatever, right? Like maybe it's that. And it's for that reason. I totally side with Chet, by the way, that it is frustrating and it's not great for us. But I think people need to understand why Riot does it. This is actually not one of the things I criticize Riot for, because, again, esports seems to do this just in a very different way.
Yeah.
So, it's tough to get it right. You would hope that, they would invest and upgrade, because I think we're using PCs that are potentially outdated. Right. Now, I'm sure there's some Riot dev somewhere which will get pissed about this and will have an entirely, built reason for, hey, the 5800 is better. Okay, cool, man. You might be right, bro. But we'd like to know why, because the players feel it. And
we can feel it. Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're fucking all geniuses, because we're fucking not. Because devs have done some really fucked up shit, like in patch notes say they've changed something and not change it, and everybody's like, oh, it's great. So trust me, I know we're morons. Trust. But if we are incorrect about this, again, goes back to transparency, right? If tens and other players are saying this, just tell us why we're wrong and prove to us that we're wrong. And I'm sure most of us will shut the fuck up, and some of us will not.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact that a lot of players have this placebo effect, and now they're talking about it, and now it just gets worse and
Becoming a big thing.
Yeah. So just explain to us why we're morons, and then we're just morons.
Well, I mean, it looks like everyone's there. You're ready to scrim, bro. So for those that don't know, Frost and Talon, you know, he coaches Talon. They made champs, and they're literally doing like what? Just you're basically a boot camp going up to the matches. When do you play? You play in a couple days, right? 3 days.
Play 3 days, yeah.
3 days, man.
Today's Thursday, Saturday, yeah.
Naughty, bro. Well, yo, good luck, man. Of course, and just
Thank you,
before we
broski.
leave, I just want to get your predictions on the matches tonight, bro, because we got Gen G Sentinels tonight of the recording, and we got FPX Heretics. I'm going Gen G. Oh fuck, I said it. Oh fuck, I'm going Gen G.
Yeah.
And I'm going
Wait,
Heretics.
I thought you were. Never mind. Man, the Gen G Sentinels game. There's just
It's gonna
something
be
about
crazy,
Sentinels
bro.
that is yelling at me. That is like, dude.
They're gonna turn out.
I think I think I'll go Gen G. I definitely will go Heretics too. I think we're both picking the favorite, so it's not really insane.
Yeah, I feel like it's the favorites. What do you think, Dan?
I gotta go with our boys at Sentinels, man. I can't do my boy
Oh,
like that. I gotta go say I have a lot of belief in them. Yeah, it's a brutal match, though. I mean, both of them,
That's
they have
tough.
great fundamentals. They have great structures. I've studied both the teams throughout the whole season here. You know, it is going to be it's a toss-up in my opinion. For me, it's just where my heart lies. You know, I gotta stick with the North Americans, and even though I'm Korean, like, you know, the Sentinels, they've shown a lot, and I'm hoping they pull through with it. And obviously, Team Heretics, they've been a force this whole season, so I gotta go with those two.
Oh yeah. All right, man. I think that's a good wrap to SpikeTalk episode 16. Yo, don't forget to drop a like on the video, comment down below whatever questions you have. We were gonna do some questions today, so we have a preset list. We'll do them on the next episode. We promise.
I will interject with this one thing. Everyone's mad at me about Munchkin. Munchkin last year played fucking Killjoy a lot, bro.
Oh, you're talking about the Sentinel thing?
Yeah.
But he still plays a bunch of Viper.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Ban to me is a duelist, bro.
Mm.
I have him playing fucking everything, but he's a fucking duelist guy.
Mhm.
Everyone is so mad about the Munchkin stuff, but it's like, dude, fuck, man. It's like, yeah.
You gotta
Anyways,
sneak it in there. All good, bro. All right.
people
All right,
are
man.
crazy, bro.
Hey, by the time we do the next episode, we'll be matched. I'll be in Korea, I think. Yeah,
All right.
I'll be in Korea, bro. I'll
So
literally
we'll
be there.
have to, we'll finally do the first in-person one.
Yep.
Nah,
we're gonna do it.
I won't be there yet. So
You won't be there yet, but we'll
next
still,
Wednesday,
I'll still do it.
I'll still be in the States, but we'll figure something out, and then
I'm sure there's a way we can do it.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll
maybe
talk
they can
more
get
about
involved.
it.
Yeah, we'll get Zoo involved.
We'll
if
talk
you-
more about
and
this.
shit.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Thank you guys for watching. Later.
Thanks for
Peace
having
out.
me.